Friday, August 17th, 2018, and it is time for the Week 10 CFL report. I'm sorry, Week 10 CFL predictions, not report. The report, Week 10 hasn't happened yet. In fact, it didn't even start on Thursday. It didn't start yesterday like it was supposed to, or I'm used to. It's starting tonight. It's like a game on Friday, two on Saturday, one on Sunday. It's kind of odd to me. I don't know. Like I said, still a noob at CFL stuff, so I just learned that Travis Lulay or whatever has been in the CFL for years, and I thought, in my head, I thought, oh, this guy's like a young up and comer, and then I started finding out more about Lulay, and it's like, what? He's done this before. He just kind of had and now he's having an up. Oh, okay. So, yeah. See, I told you, I'm still learning this game. There's so learning the players, learning the. There's still a lot for me to learn. I'm still learning new stuff every time I watch and every time I read about it. So let's start off with Ottawa versus Winnipeg. It's in Winnipeg. Winnipeg's got a 6.5 points. I'd take Winnipeg in that one. I think the Blue Bombers have been playing very well. They're 5-3. Ottawa's 5-3. Ottawa to me is still they're the best mediocre team out there right now. I mean, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. They got some good players on that team. And if this was in Ottawa, I'd probably pick Ottawa. The only reason I'm going to pick Winnipeg is because it is in Winnipeg, and I think Winnipeg is every bit good enough to take down Ottawa. I mean, they're both 5-3. They have 10 points. One of them is 5-3 with 10 points and is first place in their division, and the other one is 5-3 and has 10 points and is third place in their division. So yeah, being in the West is a little tougher. But I'll definitely take Winnipeg to beat Ottawa in this one. Next game, BC at Toronto. BC at the Argos. I like what BC's doing. I like that Lulay is having kind of a bounce back year here. But in Toronto, McLeod Bethel Thompson played very well last week towards the end of the game. He didn't start off so great, but he did play really good towards the end. He had last week off, so he's gotten another week to kind of learn the Toronto offense and get a little bit better. And it's like they got BC favored by 3 in Toronto. It's a long trip from Vancouver, British Columbia, to Toronto. That's across the country. That's a long trip. Not that football players aren't used to doing that kind of thing, but the Argos are the defending Grey Cup champs, so they got to have some good players. They got somebody coming back. His name is spelled Coombs, so I don't know if it's pronounced Combs or Coombs, but they got him coming back, and they seem pretty excited to get him back. I didn't think Toronto would beat Ottawa 2 weeks ago, and they put up 42 points. I'm going to take Toronto in Toronto to beat BC. Don't get me wrong, I like this BC team, I really do. And if they win, I will not be surprised. But I'm going to go with the Argos in this one. Last week I went undefeated, 3-0, all 3 games. I got them right, so I'm 11-7 so far this year. So now it's time for me probably to lose all 4 because I got all 3 right last week, so I'll be 11-11. I'm hoping that's not the case. Of course, I'm sure Ottawa and BC are going to hope that's the case. And so is the Montreal Alouettes, because I'm going to pick Edmonton. Now that's if Edmonton plays, because I guess Edmonton and Calgary, they're in an area where that fire is really affecting them. Edmonton was able to practice inside now, whereas Calgary does not have an indoor facility to practice in, so they've been practicing outside. But they're going to have to travel to Saskatchewan, which is a little further away. Not much, but it is a little further away, where this isn't as big of a deal. But this game is in Edmonton, and they're not even sure if the game's going to go on. They say if the smoke kind of dissipates, because they told the Edmonton Eskimos, it's like, go inside. Don't practice outside in these conditions. So if they're telling them not to practice out there, that means the air quality is not good enough to play in. And you don't want a bunch of people outside. The fans, you don't want them outside breathing in that air if they don't have to. You definitely don't want the players doing it either. I mean, you don't want any human beings out there that don't have to breathe in this air. And especially you're talking, the elderly and little kids whose lungs haven't either, they're, kind of on the downswing or they're still developing. You don't want to, you don't want to hurt people just for a football game. So Edmonton is said by noon local time they will know more about whether or not they're going to play that game. So if they play the game, Manziel is not playing. Manziel was going through the concussion protocol on that touchdown or that run where he got smashed at the goal line and fumbled the ball. They say he might have ended up with a concussion. It might be the medication he's taking. I don't know. But they said, they put him on the concussion protocol. They've had him under, observation, and they've had Antonio Pipkin taking all the snaps for the first team. Now, even with Manziel in there, if Manziel had been taking all the reps in practice this week going up against Edmonton in Edmonton, I would still take the Eskimos in this one. So that's not going to change. Pipkin being in there is definitely not going to fill me with a lot of... Pipkin's played a little bit. I mean, I guess this is his sophomore year, but he hasn't played enough, and he's definitely not the level of Manziel. So Montreal's going to have a rough go of it. Montreal might want to hope that, they want to keep everybody indoors and keep them out of the smoke and maybe postpone this game for another time. But Edmonton's getting 17 points, which tells you that's pretty rough. I would say Edmonton's probably going to get those. I mean, you hate to say that anybody's going to score 17 more points than another team, but without Manziel's magic, and his enthusiasm and his ability to get people pumped and going. I mean, he might still be on the sidelines doing it, but it's different when you got a guy is not playing because he can't because of the concussion protocol and he won't be able to. That's why you don't just have one person on the team who's a rah-rah person, because it usually doesn't work unless they're playing. So, I mean, he's a great, it's different when he's in the game and he can affect the game, and even if he's just pumping up the defense, at least they know that it's like if they can stop him, they know Manziel's going to go out there. Well, if Manziel's on the sideline just pumping him up, they know that when they get the ball back to the offense, it's Pipkin. It's not Manziel. So it's tougher to kind of say, yeah, we can still do it because, oh, wait, it's Pipkin. We don't know what Pipkin can do yet. He might be fine. He might not. We don't know. But Edmonton, don't sleep on Montreal because these are one of those games where it's like you should win. Even if Manziel was in there, you should win this. So don't sleep on this team because, Montreal is a pro team, so they can still come up there and bite you in the butt. So don't sleep on them. Make sure you play your, and Riley, it's hard for me to think Riley's going to take Montreal lightly. So I see Edmonton winning. Last game is Calgary at Saskatchewan. Calgary's getting 7. Now, Calgary is having to practice outside in that smoke. So they're shortening, and the coach even said that they were shortening practices, doing what they can to lessen the exposure. I think Saskatchewan takes this one. I really do. Caleros has had a week to take off to kind of get the offense back a little bit, and he's, and it's not that he didn't play terribly in week 8. I mean, he really didn't. In fact, he was 22 of 34 for 261 yards and a touchdown. Didn't even throw an interception. So he played very well, and I think Caleros will play well in this game. And I think with Calgary having to travel to Saskatchewan and not being able to practice fully, I think Saskatchewan will actually win this game. Calgary's undefeated season will probably end in week 10. They have a ton of good players, don't get me wrong. I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell and those guys in Calgary are really good. But I think all the stuff that's kind of going on in that area, I think that this really sets up Calgary to lose. And I'll tell you this right now. If Calgary wins this, even with dealing with having to work out outside and and practice less than they normally would, and they can go into Saskatchewan and win, it could be a special Calgary team. So, I'm predicting that they're probably going to lose this one due to some unmitigating factors that you're not going to usually see. But if they can win this game with those kind of weird circumstances that are kind of surrounding this, that might be a special team. You might have to really, really pay attention to what they do all season long. But right now, I think Saskatchewan will probably end their undefeated streak. Because it's not that Saskatchewan's a bad team. The worst part about it is 3 and 4 would put them, I think, at second place in the East, and they're dead last in the West. And I definitely don't think Saskatchewan's a last place team. And I think with Caleros back, they are a much better team. So I'm going to take Winnipeg over Ottawa because it's in Winnipeg. I'm going to take Toronto in the upset to beat BC in Toronto. Edmonton, if Edmonton and Montreal play, Edmonton should take this. Calgary at Saskatchewan on Sunday. I'm going to take the upset. I'm going Saskatchewan. So I take a couple of upsets with Toronto and Saskatchewan, but I have my reasons. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Who do you think's going to win? Do you think Montreal's even going to keep it within 17 without having Manziel in there? Do you think it'll be a letdown, or do you think they'll play better, or do you think they'll, rise up and say, look, we're going to play good we're going to continue to improve for when Johnny gets back in there? So let me know down in the comments below what you think. And with all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.